Alcatraz Island, a name that sends chills down your spine. Surrounded by the icy waters of San Francisco Bay, it stands as a monument to America's past. This isn't just any island. This is where the most ruthless criminals were sent, forgotten by the world they left behind. For almost 3 decades, it served as a maximum security penitentiary, housing the most notorious criminals in American history. Al Capone, George Machine Gun Kelly, Robert Stroud, the Birdman himself. These men, and many like them, lived out their days within these walls. But their stories didn't end there. They say that those who die in a place of sorrow and pain, their spirits linger. Alcatraz, more than just a prison, became a crucible of despair. The isolation, the confinement, the constant threat of violence, it all left an indelible mark. The island itself seems to hold its breath, trapped in a perpetual state of unease. Today, the prison stands empty, a decaying reminder of its brutal past. But behind the bars and within the cold, damp cells, whispers linger. Stories told by guards and inmates alike. Stories of the unexplained, the unsettling, the undeniably eerie. Please like and subscribe for more content. Alcatraz was more than a prison, it was a psychological weapon. The isolation of the island, the constant sound of crashing waves, the chilling screams carried on the wind, all served to break the spirit of even the hardest criminals. Visitors often speak of a palpable heaviness that hangs in the air, a sense of dread that seeps into your bones. The guards tasked with maintaining order in this place of chaos bore witness to countless horrors. Unexplained noises, shadows moving in the dead of night, and the bone-chilling feeling of being watched. Many dismissed these occurrences as tricks of the mind, products of a high-stress environment, but some experiences defied rational explanation. Footsteps echoing through empty corridors, cell doors slamming shut on their own, and the spectral figures glimpsed in the fog-shrouded yard. These weren't just stories, they were warnings, whispers from beyond the grave. Even today, with the prison long abandoned, the stories continue. Tourists and paranormal investigators alike report feeling a cold touch, hearing disembodied voices and witnessing unexplained phenomena. Some dismiss these claims as overactive imaginations, but others believe there's something more at play. Alcatraz Island wasn't always a prison. Native American tribes once inhabited the island, but they considered it a place to be avoided, a cursed land. Their legends spoke of evil spirits, restless souls trapped between worlds. Perhaps the island itself was always destined to be a place of suffering. In 1850, the U.S. Army constructed a military fortress on Alcatraz, using it to hold prisoners of war during the Civil War. The isolation and harsh conditions took their toll, and the first whispers of hauntings began to surface. Soldiers spoke of ghostly apparitions, unexplained lights, and a palpable sense of unease. In 1934, Alcatraz was transformed into a maximum security prison, designed to house the most dangerous criminals in the country. The prison's reputation as an inescapable fortress only added to its mystique. But the violence that plagued the island during its time as a military prison didn't end there. It continued within the walls of Alcatraz, seeping into the very foundation of the prison. Riots erupted, inmates perished under mysterious circumstances, and guards lived in a constant state of fear. The island became a breeding ground for despair, a place where hope went to die. The history of Alcatraz is a tapestry woven with threads of violence, despair, and the indomitable human spirit. The island's transformation into a maximum security prison in 1934 marked a new era of brutality. The prison was designed to break the will of even the most hardened criminals. The rules were strict, the punishments severe. Inmates lived in constant fear, knowing any infraction could result in solitary confinement. Guards ruled with an iron fist, maintaining order through intimidation and violence. Whispers of the unexplained began to circulate. Guards reported hearing ghostly footsteps patrolling the corridors. Others spoke of seeing shadowy figures lurking at the edge of their vision. The most haunted area was said to be Cell Block D, also known as the Hole. This wing was reserved for the most dangerous inmates. It was here that the true darkness of Alcatraz revealed itself. One of the most infamous inmates to occupy Alcatraz was Robert Stroud, better known as the Birdman of Alcatraz. Stroud spent decades in solitary confinement, His only companions, the birds he was allowed to keep in his cell. Guards reported hearing the fluttering of unseen wings near his cell. Others claimed to have seen Stroud himself, long after he had been transferred to another facility. But Stroud was not the only inmate whose spirit was said to linger within the walls of Alcatraz. Al Capone reportedly broke down in tears, claiming to be haunted by the ghost of a fellow inmate. Alcatraz was a place where the living and the dead walked side by side. The isolation of Alcatraz, in the middle of a cold bay, amplified the darkness that clung to it. Guards reported hearing disembodied voices whispering their names. Others saw shadowy figures darting between cell blocks. Unexplained cold spots were commonplace. One night, a guard heard a cell door slam shut. He found the cell block empty, but a door was slightly ajar. Inside, he found a single playing card, the ace of spades. As the sun dips below the horizon, casting long shadows across the San Francisco Bay, a palpable sense of unease settles over the water. The ferry carrying visitors to Alcatraz Island cuts through the choppy waves, its wake a dark scar against the crimson sky. As the island looms closer, its silhouette stark against the fading light, a hush falls over the crowd. The once bustling prison, now eerily silent, stands as a testament to a brutal past. The wind howls through the crumbling buildings, carrying with it the whispers of tormented souls. The air itself feels heavy, laden with the weight of countless untold stories. Even the seagulls seem to avoid this place, their cries replaced by an unsettling silence. As the last of the day's tourists disembark, the island takes on a more sinister aspect. The shadows deepen, stretching like grasping claws across the deserted walkways. The once familiar landmarks, the watchtowers, the cell blocks, the warden's house, now appear distorted, menacing. The island, shrouded in darkness and mist, seems to transform before your very eyes, revealing its true nature. This is not a place for the faint of heart. This is Alcatraz, where the veil between the living and the dead wears thin, and the ghosts of the past roam freely. Section 2. The Devil's Doorway. Stepping off the ferry, you can almost feel the weight of history pressing down on you. The main entrance, known as the Devil's Doorway, creaks open, its rusted hinges groaning. The cell blocks, once teeming with life, now stand empty, their silence deafening. The only sounds are the mournful cry of the wind and the distant crashing of waves. Guards speak of phantom footsteps and disembodied voices whispering their names. Section 3. Silence and Shadows. As darkness envelops the island, the true nature of Alcatraz reveals itself. The silence hums with an unseen energy, a chorus of whispers just beyond hearing. Shadows dance in the flickering light, taking on sinister shapes. The cell blocks exude an oppressive atmosphere. The air is heavy with the stench of human misery. Standing in the center of a cell, you can feel the despair. The isolation and constant noise could drive a man mad. Many inmates claim to be haunted by unseen forces. Even the most skeptical visitor feels unease after dark. The island itself seems alive with memories of suffering. Walking the deserted grounds, you feel watched.
The Paranormal Investigation Team, armed with an arsenal of high-tech gadgets and a healthy dose of skepticism, set up shop in one of Alcatraz's most notorious locations, Cell Block D. This wing, known as the Hole, was the ultimate punishment, a place of absolute darkness and isolation.
Their equipment, a mix of science and the supernatural, hummed to life in the oppressive silence. EMF readers, designed to detect fluctuations in electromagnetic fields, crackled with static. Thermal cameras, capable of piercing the veil of darkness, scanned the cold, damp cells. And digital voice recorders, their microphones sensitive enough to pick up a whisper, stood at the ready, waiting to capture the voices of the dead.
The lead investigator, a seasoned veteran of countless paranormal investigations, addressed his team, his voice hushed with anticipation. Remember, we're here to document, not to provoke. We're entering a place of great sorrow and pain, so we treat it with respect.
The team, a mix of seasoned paranormal investigators and curious newcomers, nodded in agreement, their faces illuminated by the eerie glow of their equipment. The air crackled with anticipation, a palpable sense that something extraordinary was about to unfold. As the team spread out through the cell block, their equipment hummed and beeped, recording every fluctuation in temperature, every electromagnetic anomaly.
The silence, broken only by the distant crashing of waves against the island's rocky shores, was almost unbearable.
Suddenly, one of the investigators, a young woman new to the team, let out a gasp. Her EMF reader, which had been relatively quiet until that point, was now buzzing like a swarm of angry bees.
The needle on the dial swung wildly, threatening to break free from its constraints.
"I've got something here!" she exclaimed, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and excitement. A massive spike in electromagnetic energy. "It's off the charts!"
The team, their curiosity piqued, gathered around her, their equipment trained on the spot where she stood. The thermal camera, its screen displaying a color-coded representation of the room's temperature, showed a distinct cold spot in the exact location where the EMF reader was going haywire.
"It's freezing here," the young woman said, her breath misting in the air even though the rest of the cell block was relatively warm. "It's like someone just opened a door to a freezer."
The team set up a digital voice recorder in the cold spot. "Get out!"
High on a hill overlooking the infamous prison stood the warden's house. The fire, they say, started on a stormy night, the wind howling like a banshee as flames devoured the wooden structure. One of the most persistent stories surrounding the warden's house involved the ghost of the former warden himself. He was often seen pacing the ruins of his former home, as if forever bound to the site of his greatest failure. The haunting of the warden's house was not limited to ghostly apparitions.
"I saw it! A man! He was wearing a hat and he looked angry."
Deep within the bowels of Alcatraz lay cell 14D, known as the Hole. The next morning, they found him dead, his eyes wide with terror.
The paranormal investigation team approached Cell 14D with caution. "If there is anyone here with us, we mean you no harm. Speak to us."
The investigators decided to conduct their own sensory deprivation experiment within Cell 14D.
He felt a cold hand on his shoulder, a whisper of breath against his ear.
The sun begins its final descent, painting the San Francisco Bay in hues of orange and purple. Alcatraz stands as a monument to the darkness that resides within the human heart. The fog rolls in once more, enveloping Alcatraz in its cold, ethereal embrace. The island disappears from view, swallowed by the mist as if it were never there at all. But the stories, the legends, the whispers of the dead, they linger, carried on the wind to chill the bones of those who dare to listen. The ghosts of Alcatraz remain, bound to the island by their pain, their anger, their unfulfilled desires. They walk the empty corridors, their footsteps echoing through the silence, their presence felt in the cold drafts and the sudden chills that run down your spine. They are the forgotten souls, the outcasts, the victims and the perpetrators, forever caught in the purgatory of Alcatraz. They are the whispers in the darkness, the shadows that dance at the edge of your vision, the feeling of being watched when you know you're alone. And as you turn your back on the island, as you sail away towards the safety of the mainland, you can't help but feel a lingering sense of unease, a prickling sensation on the back of your neck as if someone or something is watching you go. The ghosts of Alcatraz remain, a chilling reminder that some places never truly let go of their past.